The pipeline fight turns ugly. I'm Brian Lilly with the Rebel.media. You know, I expected an east-west fight over pipelines bringing oil from Alberta and Saskatchewan into eastern Canada. In some ways, I expected a left-right fight on the pipeline issue, but I didn't expect to hear anti-Christian smears from pipeline opponents. But that's what we have now. Did you hear? After a group of Montreal area mayors came out against allowing the Energy East pipeline to run through the Montreal region, Montreal's mayor, Denis Coderre, shrugged off those critical of the decision as anti-science types that believed the Flintstones was a documentary. I'll explain how that's Coderre's way of taking shots at Christians in a minute, but let's give you some background first. The mayors in and around Montreal say they don't want the Energy East pipeline because they're afraid of an oil spill. Funny, Montreal already has oil pipelines going through the area, much older pipelines. They've got natural gas pipelines all over the place. Much older technology than Energy East. I don't recall any spills or leaks from those oil and gas pipelines, but I do remember Montreal dumping 8 billion liters of raw sewage into the St. Lawrence River. Why? They had to in order to repair crumbling infrastructure. So Alberta's Wild Rose opposition leader, Brian Jean, was on CBC. He made the point about the sewage dump, an environmental travesty carried out by Coderre with the help of Justin Trudeau and the Ottawa Liberals. Then Jean said this about Montreal's opposition to pipelines. It's a short-sighted decision, and I believe it's based only on politics. The science and the facts clearly indicate that Alberta has the best oil available for this kind of environmental and economic development in Canada and certainly in the world. Jean made a rational argument. You can agree with him, you can disagree with him, but it's a rational argument. Canadian oil does face tougher environmental standards than oil we're importing from places like Saudi Arabia. But instead of responding to a rational argument with a rational counter-argument, Coderre went personal. And this is where the anti-Christian smear enters. He told French CBC, "First of all, you have to allow me a moment to laugh at a guy like Brian Jean when he says he relies on science. These are probably the same people who think the Flintstones is a documentary, but that's another story." Another story or your first retort, Denis? What is it? What's Coderre saying here? Well, first off, he's trying to say Jean is conservative and therefore stupid. We all know conservatives don't like science and, well, to prove the claim, Coderre makes the Flintstones reference. What's he getting at with that? Well, this reference is a favorite tactic of progressives who don't like religion, especially evangelical Christians. He's making a reference to young earth creationists. Some people do believe that humans and dinosaurs live together. They walk the earth at the same time. It's not the majority of Christians, it's not the majority of evangelicals, but it is progressive shorthand for stupid conservative Christians. Is that fair? Is that fair to Brian Jean? Is it fair to Christians? Is it fair to those Christians that actually do believe dinosaurs and humans walk the earth together? Would Coderre mock another religion this way? No, he wouldn't do it. And if he did, you can bet the media party led by the CBC would quiz him on it, would denounce him. Now, what about claiming this is how Brian Jean views the world? Does Coderre know something about Brian Jean, the Wild Rose leader, that the rest of us don't? I covered Brian Jean over the years while he was an MP in Ottawa. I don't know him overly well. I don't know him to be overly religious. Never heard of him say anything of the sort. But I bet Coderre hasn't either. In fact, in marginal ways, I've known the last two leaders of the Wild Rose Party. Neither one fits the Coderre mold. Neither do many of the Wild Rose supporters I've met over the last half decade. Some are religious, some are not. You know what they're more likely to have in common? That they're small business owners, often working in the oil and gas field. These are people that are now struggling to stay afloat, working hard to make a payroll if they still have staff, while Coderre thumbs his nose at pipelines with oil from Alberta and Saskatchewan. Wild Rose tweeted out the stat that since 2007, Quebec has taken almost $74 billion in equalization. Saskatchewan Premier Brad Wall more direct and to the point. I trust Montreal area mayors will politely return their share of $10 billion in equalization supported by the West. Don't count on it, Brad. Coderre's out there tweeting about how we all contribute to the collective effort and we can have opposing views. Really? We can have opposing views, Denny? Because it looks like if someone has an opposing view to you, then you mock them. You turn it into an anti-Christian smear. And honestly, I expected better from you, Mayor Coderre. See, I covered Denis Coderre closely over the years. We know each other. I thought he was the type of politician you could have a differing opinion from, and still have a respectful dialogue. Apparently not. Not in this instance. I'm not even a Westerner, but I'll tell you, I'm fed up with this. Here at The Rebel, we've launched a new campaign at CutThemOff.ca. If you think it's hypocritical for politicians to take oil money from Alberta and Saskatchewan, but not help get that oil to market with pipelines, then I invite you to sign the petition now. You can find it at CutThemOff.ca. I'm also going to ask you to share this petition far and wide on Facebook, Twitter, send it by email, any way you can. Get your friends and family to sign it. And finally, we're going to commission a poll to see what the residents of Alberta and Saskatchewan think of politicians like Denis Coderre taking the money but trying to block the oil. Unfortunately, he's not alone. It's time the voices of the regular people out west were heard. If you can help pay for the poll, we'd appreciate it. We don't get the $1 billion from taxpayers like the other guys do. We exist because you support us and you value the work we do. So any donation, $5, $10 more, will go a long way to making this a reality. Denis Coderre should be ashamed of himself today. If you agree, if you support Canadian oil and oil workers, if you're tired of the hypocrisy, then go now. Go to CutThemOff.ca, sign, and share the petition.